And recording in progress. That's the sound I want to hear. So I don't know. I think that is the SEO Happy Hour number 7 or 6. So
Wow.
we
Lucky
are,
7.
yeah, lucky 7. So today's speaker is actually Gabby, and I'm very looking forward to this call and to actually share SEO journey of Gabby Martin. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining the call. And as you may know, I'm Adriana Vujadin. I'm SEO manager and coach for SEO professionals. I really would like to bring this awareness about talking about all these challenges on personal level, not technical things, and to this SEO happy hour. So basically, this will be the only hour where we are not talking about technical things. We are talking about, I would say, the most important things, and that is actually how we feel, our challenges, our personal challenges through our SEO journeys. So Gabby has a huge experience. She has been in the SEO online industry from 2014, and I really looking forward to actually hear about your experience so you can share your challenges, journey, and how everything went. Just for all people who are here, this will be, I would say, like both sides conversation, so people can join and they can ask their questions. Maybe they can just like raise the hand so we are not interrupting each other. But I really would like to encourage people ask questions, people share their insights if they are in the similar situation, if they have a similar problem. So basically, it's not that actually I'm leading this, we are all leading in this, and Gabby is our today's speaker. So we can start. Gabby, how everything started?
Yeah, and that's a great point that you mentioned too about community, because I think that's so important as, especially women in the tech industry. It's good to know that we have companions and that we're not alone in this. It's something that, especially when I got my start, I felt a lot of loneliness. Um, so, I mean, I just wanted to say, anybody who joins in or watches this afterwards, more than welcome to find me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. I'm definitely, here for you if you have any questions. Where did my journey start? My journey started in 2014. I can't believe it's been that long. Hearing it is just crazy. But I started as a web developer. I was mostly self-taught. I got my start actually. I was doing a side gig in college. I was working as a web developer for a few different indie games in the browser-based pet game industry, virtual pet game industry. A lot of fun, but also a lot of stress. I dealt with a lot of coding, hands-on coding. Is mostly self-taught. I helped clients that had games, and I also learned how to build them from the ground up with different programming languages: PHP, MySQL, JavaScript, jQuery. And as I went along, I joined a forum for actually gaming industry related. And the forum owner there, he was very good with SEO, so he started to mentor me, and I started to learn a few things and just kind of upskilled. But I didn't really do full-time SEO until I graduated college, and I decided that I wanted something a little more stable, the freelance industry, in terms of the nature of the industry of what I was working in just wasn't exactly stable. So I wanted something a little bit more stable, full-time hours. And I started with a SEO focused agency, working full-time there as a web developer. The agency was bought out, and around the same time, one of the clients there, they were not happy about the buyout, and they were also looking for a full-time SEO specialist. And they, had already worked with me, so they didn't mind bringing me on full-time as an SEO. And that's where I started to kind of get my hands dirty working in all SEO and only SEO. So it was a little bit of a transition there, but I started there as an SEO. I worked there for a while. different legislation happened, and the company is no longer around anymore. Federal mandate. They were particularly e-liquid based, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with the e-liquid legislation that has happened. So I moved on, but I continued to kind of work in the same sphere. This is definitely my career, what I enjoy doing, my passion. It's always has been. I can't really imagine doing anything else at this point. So I continued to work in the SEO sphere, as well as, assisting kind of build websites, e-commerce websites, kind of wore many different hats, worked with a whole different slew of clients and industries. And yeah, I found myself wearing a couple of different roles, but I'm still an SEO specialist. More recently with a biohazard cleaning company. Quite an interesting industry in itself. Certainly, my hats off and respect to the people that are on the front lines working in that industry. It's not easy at all. And yeah, it's amazing to see how much SEO relates to that industry as well. Pretty much, I would say 86% of our business is generated from SEO. So certainly a big part of the marketing campaigns that we do there.
Oh, that's huge. And
Yeah.
when you started, like how these days look like, and what is different to current days?
Yeah, in terms of
In terms of thoughts, feelings, how did you feel in the start of career, and what has been changed? Like, if we are not talking about like the content, like what's happening, if we are talking about how we are feeling on daily basis,
oh
what kind
yeah,
of thoughts
absolutely.
we are catching?
Absolutely. And I feel like, especially as a woman in the tech industry, I kind of uh, understand a lot more of the dynamic that we are faced with, different pressures and different expectations that we face every day. And I think some of the greatest expectations that I feel, especially as a woman, is to be a little bit more passive and aggressive, and be more social and not kind of so studious or work driven or career driven. Um, I feel like as a woman in the tech industry, it's like almost thought of as a little bizarre to be so career driven. Like I know that might sound strange, but I've certainly faced my fair share of just judgments, and I feel like, especially as a woman, I've, also faced quite a bit of like skepticism, even though I'm very adamant about staying on top of the latest trends and learning, and this is something that I take very seriously as my career. Um, but I definitely have felt a lot of judgment in some sense as to um, why are you doing that, or what are you trying to prove? And I'm not really trying to prove anything. I just want to be good at what I do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to be intimidating. I'm not trying to be aggressive in any way. I'm here to work with others, and I'm here to bring my skill to the table and do my job correctly. So that's something that I've certainly felt, and it definitely has given me more than I already have, quite a bit of imposter syndrome. I certainly think to myself often, like, do I need to be doing something differently, or do I need to be um, approaching the way that I do things differently? Is there an issue with what I'm, with how I'm coming across, or my way of communicating, or working with others? So um I found that to be interesting, especially when I'm confronted with situations where uh I'll offer the same thing as one of my male colleagues, or offer the same opinion, or offer the same perspective as one of my male colleagues, and I'll be passed over, even though I just offered the same suggestion or the same opinion as one of my male colleagues. But when my male colleague suggests it, that's when it's heard, that's when it's listened, that's when it's taken into consideration.
And
But it's certainly,
how did you handle this when you are seeing that this is happening and just like in front of you?
frankly, sometimes I don't feel like I can even address it. And that's frustrating. That's very frustrating. To kind of even speak or really like say about especially when I feel that it's not just a colleague that is taking that stance, but also, you know, an upper management or managerial attitude. Um, and you know, I've felt that in many different ways. You know, I've had experiences in the past working with you know, certain bosses or managers that have, you know, I've, you know, pitched, uh, I've driven results. You know, I've increased ROI. I've proven, you know, that I have brought what they were expecting. Our KPIs are being met, and you know, I've done this and explained why I am, you know, hoping to make more money or you know be given the raise that I feel that I'm deserved based on what I have, you know, delivered on. And there's implications in the conversation that I if I wanted to if I want to make more money or if I want to hit a certain, you know, bracket that I should um look to having a spouse or a significant other to help me get there if I want to be more independent, which you know, it kind of perpetuates a feeling of
Yeah, how
like,
to do that actually?
yeah, and also it's like it makes me feel like okay, there's almost no sense in trying to, you know, bring up my concerns or speak what's on my mind because I kind of already have a good, you know, feeling or a good sense of where the conversation's going to go, you know, and I kind of have a an indication deep within that it's almost not worth my time, you know, and
And
it's
what you are
unfortunate,
deciding
but
in this moment? Are you going to leave? Are you going to stay? Which kind of like
well,
under which conditions? Mm-hmm.
in that aspect, along with, you know, other comments that were related, I've worked with male dominated industries before that were automotive industries. I'm not saying all automotive. I'm not saying all automotive, you know, companies are like this. Thankfully, I have worked with automotive companies that are much more professional in this, but um, I have, you know, been exposed to comments like, well, I hate to say it, but this is a male dominated industry. And unfortunately, women just don't get ahead in this industry. So I've had to make the decision there to find other work and leave if I wanted to meet my own career goals, which, you know, I did. And thankfully, I have to say I have had better experiences. So really the takeaway advice that I would give to anybody listening to this would be to not get discouraged and be persistent. The best thing you could be is persistent as a woman in this industry. It really, and that's something that I feel is just so important is to stay persistent and always believe, you know, in yourself and never second guess yourself. It's so hard to do, I know, but it's 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 important if you want to grow and you want to continue to um you know be taken seriously as we all should be in this industry.
And you mentioned imposter syndrome. Was it connected with like this situation, or was imposter syndrome was in some other situations that you faced on the job?
I think anybody who cares about their job is going to have imposter syndrome. So I feel like that's almost a double-edged sword right there. However, I feel like experiences like these certainly don't help that. So I'm not sure if that was already there or if it was, you know, kind of the influence of the way that some situations can be based on what I've mentioned. But um, certainly, it's something that, regardless of wherever it's coming from, it's something that I feel like all women, especially, need to be aware of and be able to manage. Um, and like I said, I feel like just being persistent. And something that's also helped me is doing positive affirmations. I know I know for some people it seems silly, but looking at yourself in the mirror every day and just speaking positive affirmations, and it does certainly help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, if anybody who is listening to this and they are facing the same challenge, like what is actually be the best for them? Because yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah.
definitely we can leave, but I don't know, like in this situation, and like luckily I didn't face this kind of situation that you mentioned. I was just got a feedback that actually my another colleague will be on the SEO project because client said that actually I'm a woman. So but basically I didn't have like any kind of like direct
I don't know.
communication,
Oh,
or I haven't been part, luckily, like I was privileged to not experience that. Even I was experiencing imposter syndrome for almost like 3-4 years. But I was thinking, just like if somebody is facing this now, and definitely they have an option to leave, but what they can do to actually stay, even just like to not leave as like not power, even like they want to leave to actually to feel that power and say, like, I don't know, would be a direct communication, maybe with the HR, with the upper level management, or just like communicate, because definitely it will be the another woman maybe that will
yes.
replace her, and then we are just having these repetitive situations.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, certain situations, and it's the ones that I were in personally, there is no HR. These were small businesses. And even if you're working with them as a freelancer or consultant, you may still, unfortunately, have to face some of that. And I feel like, especially in a freelance type situation, might be even more prevalent because women are going to be working, freelancing with small businesses. They have their own value to bring to the table, especially for freelancers. And as I freelance for 4 years, I'm certainly aware of it. But as I said before, it's something that I feel like it comes down to being persistent, also vetting, or trying to vet your clients carefully. That's a whole nother topic. But it's certainly important, and I feel like, especially, and to what you had said earlier, you get a lot of questions on, like, is it better if I'm a web developer, if I upskill in that way? And those type of, like, entry level questions, I feel like, also odes to, like, it's really so much more about vetting um the opportunities you want carefully, and knowing what fits well with you, and not just in what skills that you have, but also if it's a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And always, like, if you are seeing that actually your job is more hurting you than just making you doesn't mean like happy or like fulfilled, definitely it's better to change your position, because there is a huge possibility that that job will hurt you so much that like in the end you will not have any kind of like energy to get
Exactly.
something better for you. So always I'm encouraging to actually leave sooner than later,
Exactly.
because maybe after
Absolutely.
it will be so exhausted, like even for
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. And even though now we're in the job market, and this might sound very optimistic, but it is true. Even in the job market that we have now, where we're having so many layoffs, and it seems like there's such a competitive landscape, there is still ways to find what you're looking for, as long as you're persistent, and as much as you can be. And everybody's situation is different, of course. But don't lose hope, and just continue to push and be persistent, and eh, look in places that you wouldn't think to look. I know that sounds it sounds easier said than done, but I joined when I was in this situation, I joined fantastic networking groups like Women in Tech SEO. I joined wonderful networking groups on LinkedIn and Facebook. The Daily Carnage is a great Facebook group. Um, that I also joined, and just being around these like-minded people who have also been through similar experiences really not only, you know, keeps your hopes high, but it also can bring you better opportunities as well.
Yeah, and you can also open your mind for a new opportunities and
Absolutely.
get that
Absolutely.
refreshed mindset, just like to keep searching, because in the
Absolutely.
end you will only lose if you quit, but if you're not quitting, you're not losing.
Exactly. And even though you are leaving a position that's not good for you, it's still not considered quitting. I mean, you are resigning, but it's not like you're quitting in the sense of you're giving up altogether.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually transitioning and trying to do something better for yourself. And there's nothing about that that is, uh, we equate quitting with failure. That's not a failure. That's a learned experience, and that's transitioning into even more of a successful person that you deserve to be and that you earned to be, and you deserve to be there.
And even like doesn't matter like if this is a challenge or there are like various challenges that people are facing in the current jobs and they are looking for a new jobs, and then they have that feeling, oh, if I just like quit my job, then I will kind of like lose this battle. But it's not losing, you're just like progressing, you're getting something better for yourself. Doesn't matter which is the
Absolutely.
reason, but just like take that next
Absolutely.
step. Doesn't matter like if
Absolutely.
you're member is not something that you are hoping, or you have a micromanager, or like doesn't matter like which is the reason, but don't look at that as a kind of like losing the battle.
Absolutely. And you know what? I also understand that emotion too of, you know, am I making the right decision, or is this too soon, or, you know, however it may be. I was laid off twice during the pandemic, and I certainly understood those emotions of, wow, how does this look? How when I'm presenting this, how does this look, right? And there was actually a time where I was contacted by a fairly large brand, um, and I was so excited. I was like, "Wow, this is a great opportunity." And then the HR who had been speaking to me from that company was asking me about the gaps in the pandemic, and I said, "Oh, that you know, that's that was during the pandemic. I was laid off, you know, twice during the pandemic, as many were, you know." Um, she said to me, "Well, is there any way that you can adjust your resume to make it look to
Yeah, I will
make it
just
look
remove
like you
that.
were in like yeah." And I said to myself, you know, um, perhaps this is not the best fit.
Yeah,
If any,
definitely.
you know, she said to me, well, I understand, but the hiring manager um is very strict about short-term tenures. And I said to myself, I said, and this is for an SEO position, which I feel like the expectation nowadays is in our industry is that irrelevant. It's more so about what you do than how long you did it for. Um, and again, these are things when you're vetting for the better opportunity to be aware of, and don't try to internalize very hard. It's still something that I think about.
Yeah.
I think about like, oh, that one time 4 years ago. But I still put it in perspective, you know, and I'm like, um, there are better opportunities out there. I found them, and I know somebody else can as well.
But I think that moment is very hard because people are just losing their hope. They laid off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They are without jobs, and it's very very hard to make that decision that as you did,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
I think the majority of people will say just like, yeah, let's take anything. I will be here just like for a few months, and then I will try to find another job. And then if this manager is so strictly about like these kind of like, I would say like minor things, what kind of job and in which way they require when you are on that position. So
100%. 100%. And yeah, again, I mean, I'm not sure if this is helpful at all, but putting yourself through these type of personal challenges where you're kind of saying, kind of taking that step back, and it's hard, it's difficult to do it. I admit it. It's of course it's not easy. But when you put yourself through those personal challenges, imagine how you're going to react with somebody outside of your control, puts you in a position that you know you can't easily react to, or you can't control, or and it is, as we speak about during this podcast extensively, we are unfortunately prone to experiences that most men in the tech industry are not facing or exposed to. They're usually the ones, unfortunately, putting that expectation, regardless of whether or not they're intentionally doing it. But we are feeling things, and we are experiencing things, and we are questioning ourselves, and we're questioning what we're going through. And again, as I said before, when you are able to put yourself through these personal challenges, you're able to kind of gain that strength and resilience to react to them in a more composed way.
Yeah. And this is so interesting. Doesn't matter like which kind of external factors, like is it okay, laid off, hiring manager is looking for some additional things. Even when we are when we are working with the clients and they have some additional requirements, the first thing will be actually questioning ourselves.
Absolutely.
Even they are not connected with us, like even in some extreme situations, like you do some SEO audit and clients they just don't want to implement. First thing that we will do is actually self-doubt. Maybe I could do this differently, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I need to learn more. And it's so interesting. So in which situations you are questioning yourself and how you are handling them?
Are you asking me?
Mm-hmm.
So there's quite a few, especially when management prefers to do things a certain way, and it's not the right way. And For example, link building. We've all heard the black hat way of doing things with link building. Oh, even though the link costs money, it's still from a reputable site, and it might be worth it. And even though it falls into a gray area where sure the link does come from a reputable site, but you're paying this amount of money, and perhaps
So on, yeah.
yeah, perhaps your opinion is no, we could build these links through Harrow. We don't have to go and pay for these links. That's going to cost the budget. It's going to cost money from the budget, like spending it recklessly when you don't have to. And oh, that takes more time to build through Harrow, and we're not always going to get links through Harrow. No, nothing of that is promised. Well, it's a long-term strategy. Well, we need links now. We need links now. We need links now. And it certainly puts you in a position where you know what's right, where you know that building it organically through Harrow, and building it over time, and just being persistent, keep pitching and getting your name out there, and building meaningful partnerships. That's the way it should be done, regardless how long it takes. But when you're surrounded by a room full of men who are in their own mindset about doing things a certain way, and even though you have all the data, you have all the proof, and even if you have done it before in the past, they only want to hear what they want to hear. And when it doesn't work out for them, and they say, oh well, I got a link through Harrow, and oh yes, that's a great idea. Well, I've been saying that for months. Hey, I'm right over here, I've been saying that for months. So
But how do you feel in this situation?
isolated.
Yeah, isolated.
Isolated for sure. Isolated for sure. Isolated for sure. And gaslighted. Gaslighted. gaslighted and isolated.
Yeah. And
I almost feel like a ghost sometimes.
and it's very connected with loneliness. And
Certainly.
then just like every day that you are working and even you are having some exciting SEO tasks or check-ins or just like upcoming SEO report, it doesn't matter like what, then everything else then is just like dropping your feelings because it's just like that environment that is not supporting you in the right way.
Sure.
But then you are putting like on yourself, maybe I can do something differently.
Absolutely.
Maybe, and you are
Absolutely.
actually stressed about all these things that they,
100%.
and you know what's right. You would like to provide additional value by doing some extra things, but actually it's impact you by just being stressful, frustrated, and overwhelmed just like every day. So I don't think that we deserve that.
Not at
And
all. And oh, sorry.
no, go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna say, that's especially the reason why I feel like placing down those boundaries and also doing those check-ins with yourself and your emotions and doing those daily positive affirmations is so important so we don't erode our talent and our skill or our potential to grow or even upskill. um as a web developer, even I faced before I started in SEO. As a web developer, I faced a fair share of like unhealthy competition where my cat is walking in, so if you hear me out,
No.
he's very vocal. He likes to join in on all of my discussions. So I've also faced a lot of doubt, questioning, skepticism. Even though I know what I have been doing is good, and like everybody else, I read, I work hard. I don't look to take shortcuts. I just want to do the right thing, and it's difficult sometimes when you're kind of like drowned out almost, or your work is being taken credit as taking credit from somebody else, and they're given that credit because there's kind of almost like a again you wanted to join in on the conversation.
Yeah, can we see
um
her?
absolutely. this is
Oh,
this is Ari. Oh, come on, Ari.
ah, oh my
Yeah.
God. She's very specific, actually. Yeah, I love her.
But yes, so it's frustrating when your work is also taking credit, is your work, the credit that you deserve to be given for your work is taken by somebody else, and it's given because it's almost as if unbelievable that a woman is able to do the same thing that a man is able to do it. And I feel like that's especially the expectation in STEM, in the STEM industries, and it's something that I've faced so many times as a web developer and an SEO.
And that reminds me on one funny story. I think 4 years ago, I was interviewing for Google interviews. And in the final interview stage, they asked me if someone is taking a credit for you, like what will be your approach? And of course, like I didn't think too much. And I said, like, okay, if somebody is taking a credit of me, like definitely I would communicate that directly to that person and definitely go to my manager and like have discussion around this, because definitely I want to make sure that like the situation is not repeating. And then of course I didn't pass because I got a red flag, because it's just kind of like community and like the new professionals, they are encouraging to take these kinds of situations, like calm down and just like not being kind of like not direct, but just like go around. And then I said like, no, I would not do that, because actually if someone is taking a credit, I need to put like my personality there and like, let's
Yeah.
discuss this, because maybe another person is feeling that I'm taking a credit, or like doesn't matter, like, but we really need to discuss this. We can't go just like put all these things under the blanket, or like how the saying goes. But I really see that's actually the new community is encouraging like these kinds of like not direct discussions, because it's not kind of like professionals, but I think totally opposite. Like, let's discuss this.
Absolutely. And it's an important discussion to have,
Yeah.
especially since like I feel like everybody is afraid of almost being vulnerable to a certain extent, but it's something that we all have to be, because we're all gaslighted to a certain extent with this, and we're all questioning ourselves and whether or not what we're going through is actually happening. And we're all going through it, so we all know that it's there. And it's almost like we need to have these safe spaces where we feel more empowered, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I say, especially anybody who's listening to this, certainly look to networking organizations like Women in Tech SEO, and look into I just found another networking group, Women in Tech, just Women in Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend like Facebook groups like the Daily Carnage as well, who are very progressive, and they're very down to earth, and they believe in valuing talent the right way. And they are very proactive, a co-ed community, but still very proactive. And the environment, the atmosphere there is certainly very supportive. So it's another safe space that I do recommend.
Yeah, I think I saw them, like they are having a yearly like community gathering in New York, right?
Oh, okay. Actually, I don't know. I gotta take a look into that. Thank you.
If that is
Yeah, look
yeah,
into that. I
yeah,
look into that.
I think
It
they
might
have
be it
also
might be
like,
something I actually do.
yeah, I think they have like speaker opportunities, and like it's just like
Oh,
kind of like regular speaking events. So if I remember well.
I'll definitely take a look into that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned being vulnerable, because that is something that before I was so afraid of, and I was thinking I need to be kind of like professional, confident, like I don't need to like put some my like vulnerability there, because it's just like not professional. But
Absolutely.
definitely what I can see, especially in the recent like years, if you are not putting yourself and just like to be vulnerable, I think you can't grow in the certain
No,
extent.
absolutely, absolutely. You just read exactly the thought that I just had off my head. No, you're 100% right. And the other part of it too is I read somewhere, and I have to say I highly agree with this statement, that professionalism doesn't mean lack of emotion. Like, it doesn't
Oh, I love
necessarily
this.
mean a lack of emotion. Um, it just means following a standard. And everybody can make that standard what they want. And of course that opens up such a world of subjectiveness, but um you can be vulnerable and professional at the same time. And I feel like the best mentors and the best leaders are like, the best leaders and the best mentors that I've ever had in my life share their experiences, their failures and their successes, and they do so confidently in a way that empowers and inspires. Don't be afraid of being vulnerable. Just focus on doing it with a standard. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, because what we are connected to is actually like these emotions. And especially because I think there are like 10 emotions that we are all facing in
Absolutely.
the everyday, like stress, frustration, overwhelm, being lonely, fear of just like being alone, or like fear of die or something like this. So basically, I don't know, 10, 20, I don't know how many, but different situations are causing the same feelings every day. So if we are not sharing this kind of like vulnerability things, I really think that people can't relate and can't connect with us, especially for the people who are going to some leader roles, because we just don't want to have that kind of leader that we think that it's perfect, like they are not lacking of some I don't know, additional skills, or like for the leaders that are not being in the similar situations that we are in, because we just can't connect, and we can't follow them like even more, because my biggest leaders are actually people who are sharing the darkest stories about their lives, because then I can relate, then I can see that power.
Absolutely. And it just fosters that learning and that growth. And how else are we going to develop as professionals if we don't speak about the not so good side of things? I mean, it can't always be good. It's just we all want it to be, but it can't always be like that.
Yeah. All right. And when it comes to current challenges that you face in the can we see Ariel again?
Yeah.
So nice. I
Hey,
love.
you have a new fan. You have a new fan.
Hey. It's like the
He's
toy, actually, because
yeah,
yeah, it's so interesting.
his cat breed is actually a ragdoll. Very, very appropriately named.
Mm.
Yeah, he's a baby. I can't believe he turned 7 this year. Where does
Oh,
time
okay.
go? Where does time go?
Yeah, time is
Um,
flying.
yeah. Um, anyways,
Yeah.
what
I think we were talking about the current challenges that SEO professionals are facing and how to
yes.
handle them, especially this year. I think this year has been crazy.
I'm Now that you mention it, I definitely could speak a lot to AI and maybe perhaps I'm looking at it from the wrong lens, and this is where I'm questioning myself even now, thinking to myself, "Is this my imposter syndrome speaking, or am I being gaslighted?" But especially for those who write content for smaller businesses or companies that have smaller budgets, and they're increasingly expecting more out of AI, and what can AI can deliver in terms of writing production, and all very helpful and good discussions to have, constructive discussions to have, but where do we feel as women in that aspect? Are we feeling even lesser valued? In what terms of skill and what we could bring to the table? Um, Sometimes I'm almost wondering, like, you know, my input was already not 100% valued as a woman in the tech sphere, and just based on the fact that it's not coming from a man. And then I wonder, is AI also kind of depreciating that value even more, because you could generate so much more without having to kind of worry about that gender or that type of perspective. Um, it's a good question to have. I mean, I don't have the answer to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it's something to think about if that is affecting the industry, um, or if that, like I said, if that's something that I might be feeling, erroneously based on other experiences that I've had. Again, I don't know, but um, it's and since it's all implied, and I feel like a lot of the situations that us women go through too is like we deal with very like implicit gestures or conversations that kind of leave us to wonder, like, what did you mean by that, actually? And we have to think about these things, because unfortunately these are the nature of the experiences that we deal with sometimes, and that's the reason why I feel like sometimes it's better to just be direct. I prefer that almost.
Yeah. What I can see, especially with the recent Google updates, with the AI thing, with like all
Yeah.
the updates and the SEO industry in general, whatever the like new thing is coming to the industry, it increases the insecurities.
Yeah.
So people are so afraid, and then like all the imposter syndrome is just increasing, and then like people are just like panicking. But
It's true. It's true.
but in the core of the problem is actually why people are not working on their insecurities and the imposter syndrome, because all these things can be fixed by proper mindset, and there are some mindset exercises, like there is a therapy, NLP courses, like mindset coaching things, like take anything, like, but just like help yourself, because I think in the end, and I can't imagine like what next year will bring, actually it's our
Absolutely.
responsibility to handle these core problems, because next year in the March we are having a new Google Core update, and like what will happen next.
Absolutely.
But
And
in
also, I do want to mention too, like, I feel like, and it's totally okay if companies or departments are taking AI into part of their daily like routine or depart. It's certainly very helpful in certain aspects, and of course, I've used AI as I feel like any modern SEO is expected to nowadays or should. However, I still feel like if you're working with a team, the most important thing to do is just clearly communicate your expectations and communicate what you do value about what they bring to the table, and you know give that praise, that appreciation, and the achievements, the recognition they deserve. And I feel like that will clear up quite a bit of that, quite a bit of that insecurity, or quite a bit of that concern and that worry. Certainly nothing is perfect in business, but it really all starts at communication. I do believe that.
Yeah, because in the end, people are so afraid, and they are expecting something, and they are just like having these pictures and what if
Absolutely.
situations. Even in the first place, like the majority of these situations are not happening, and it will not happen. But in the end, people, and especially as your professionals, are more overwhelmed by these thoughts than actually the situation that
Absolutely.
is happening in your company and your position. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, especially as women, we are facing so many different pressures, and just so many additional dynamics and additional concerns and additional feelings that maybe not everybody is expressing. So I feel like, again, these communication and these initiatives are so important. And again, I don't think anybody should be given special or preferential treatment. I think, if anything, both men and women should be given that same amount of communication and value equally, and that would be the best move to make, for both, and for the longevity of a marketing department or a business or an entity, any type of team, really. um, there should be no special treatment, or like attention given to one specific thing, just because of these concerns that I'm expressing, or that are being
Mhm.
expressed in the industry.
Uh, this is why communication is so important, but actually I think
Absolutely.
SEOs are so afraid to communicate, because, but
They
what
are.
I'm usually saying my clients, you can be afraid and not to ask, and you can also be afraid and ask and get actually answer that will calm down, and you will have
Exactly.
that new kind of like opportunities that you are seeing. Because if you are just afraid and you're not asking, then you will be just like hurtful for you, and then like,
Absolutely.
but just like, okay, I'm scared, and like totally I have been so scared, I was thinking so many like negative things. But also just like take that and have that in mind, that even like you are scared, don't miss opportunity to make to
Absolutely.
feel better about your position, and like anything.
There's a quote that I I also live by. It's you miss every opportunity you don't take. So take the opportunity and see, and you always learn from it too. Like, you're not expected to succeed like 100% of the time. There's going to be times where you have to take what experience was what came out of it, learned from it, and um, again, it's a daily practice. It's not something that I feel like anybody, even people who have been in this industry way longer than me, or way shorter than me, this is something that I feel like are unique challenges that keep the work interesting. And I mean, if there wasn't challenge or stress in life, I feel like life would be very boring. So that's one way that I look at it.
Yeah, yeah. But also, uh, don't kind of allow to be uh, so much in the pain
Hmm.
without taking any actions, because like
Absolutely.
in the end, we are because we are so passionate about SEO, and like we just
Absolutely.
like so love it, but additional and external factors are making our jobs much more harder than it should be. And then
Absolutely.
putting like all these personal insecurities, self-doubts, negative thoughts, then we are just like burying ourselves to the ground. And
Absolutely. I think
I
that
don't
lends
know.
into
Yeah.
burnout too.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that lends out to major burnout too. And that's another thing too is to consider is like work-life balance, and you know, as also another additional expectation is, especially as women, I feel like we're pulled many different directions and we have many more expectations, not just at our jobs, but outside of our job too. It's just like it can be very overwhelming, and there's nothing wrong with setting those boundaries and saying to myself, I'm doing the best I can,
Yeah.
and this is what I can, and I working at max capacity, and that's beautiful. That's what I could do, and
But there is a boundary because I'm
boundaries.
alive. I
Exactly.
have my family, friends, partners. Like I have,
We are super women by just doing everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. Like we don't have to judge ourselves.
yeah.
We don't have to judge ourselves anymore,
But it's so hard. It's so hard to not judge, and
It's
not
hard.
just
It's hard.
ourselves, like anyone. But
Absolutely.
so how you,
That's also the reason why I'm grateful I've found, a wonderful support system, and I have friends, and I'm surrounded by people who are supportive, and um I joined a women's only, fitness club um outside of, my work, and it's a nice little balance, and if that's not something that you don't feel is for you, there's always book club, there's always other things that you could get involved in, but certainly getting involved and having that balance where you're not always resorting back to work, and you have something just to keep things like a little balanced is so helpful, and that support, like I said before, certainly does make you feel like I'm enough. I'm enough.
yeah,
So
because you can't have a work-life balance, but just like having a work and then you are not doing anything besides the work. You're just like laying in your
absolutely,
bed or like just watching the Netflix. But if you are
absolutely.
putting any additional activities, and like I was for the almost like 2 years, like I was basically sitting in the same apartment, like it was during the COVID, and basically I was just like working, and then I would change a room and just like watch Netflix. And after 2 years, like I saw that something needs to be changed. And now
Yeah,
it's
I
totally
was in the same
different.
boat.
Yeah. So
I
basically,
was
just
in the
like
same boat.
adding these activities doesn't matter. Is it dance? Is it walking? Is it just like go be drunk? That doesn't matter. Just like go outside.
Absolutely. It's really about having that balance, and it's also there's a book, Mastering the Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I read it.
It applies here too. You
yeah.
don't worry so much about what other people think of you. It's easier said than done. I know, but
And you can all, yeah. I love even,
it, it's a part of the process, and the more that you just practice it, like anything else, like you practice SEO every day and you get good at SEO, the more and more you do it, um It's the same thing. It's just, and it doesn't have to be like an all or nothing type thing. Just a little bit each day adds up, and eventually you get into the mindset of it, and you realize that, what things that used to bother you don't bother you as much anymore.
Yeah, because that is very connected with the people pleasing, but actually you can be worried about like what people will think about it and just like do nothing. Because what people are do is actually just like doing over deliver, overwork, over like all these things, just like to change that possibility what other people is thinking about you. But just like you don't need to overwork just to avoid this. Just worry about other people and don't do anything about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think and of course this is hard, but when you have that kind of connection with yourself and you know what your worth is, then a lot of like these boundaries
Absolutely.
is going to be set easily than if you're just like not connected with yourself.
Absolutely. And everybody's journey to learn that, to experience that, to learn that looks differently. I mean, some people learn that by, reading a book, and then that's the way that they find their own evaluation of their self value. Okay, read this, or I'm inspired by this specific individual, and I want to be like them. So let me follow what they're doing. And they set that expectation or that standard for themselves, or maybe they were raised in that type of upbringing, or that, you know, isn't kind of their environment, what they know of. So it becomes second second nature to them. But some people just learn that by going through it, even if it's once, twice, three times. I went through it three times, and then I finally realized, "Oh, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to accept that." And um, anytime that I've been presented with those type of opportunities, or something that I don't feel meets my self-worth, um, I feel comfortable and I feel good about rejecting it, because I know that once I get something better, or something that fits me and fits what I'm hoping to accomplish, I'll be able to transition into that person that I want to be, and I'll be a lot happier. And um, again, it takes a lot of persistence, and sometimes, like I said, it looks different for everybody. Like I said, some people, they just, that's kind of the standard of what they were brought up with, or that's just the idea that's been in their mind for some time. And other people like me, they had to experience it a few times, and then they realized, okay, and it doesn't necessarily make you not enough, or a lesser person, or not good enough.
Mhm.
It's just sometimes the way that you learn, and it's just sometimes the journey that you had to take to get there.
Yeah, because in the end, if you are not saying no to other people, you are actually saying no to yourself. So
Exactly.
you can choose the person.
Exactly.
All right, thank you so much. I
Um,
think this was a very helpful conversation, especially for the people who are facing these challenges now. So if we have like any questions or anything that you would like to discuss, or Donald, if you have any questions, maybe any story that you would like to share, feel free to share it.
I will say one thing, because I thought it was interesting that you brought up, a lot of people ask if it's helpful to have a web development background in SEO. That's a common question I get too.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting the DMs about it. So let me just use my time at the end to kind of address that. Um, okay. Yes, it is helpful. Do you need it? Absolutely not. You don't need it. I want to say, like, you absolutely don't need it. And if you want to have it, go for it. I'm not stopping you. I'll even help you. I'll bring you to the right resources to learn. I don't mind at all. Certainly, I'm here to help. I love the community. I enjoy being a part of this community. So I'm here for you. All means, I offer a safe space as well. Like one-on-one, anything you have to say or want to share, totally feel free. But where the skill is concerned, you don't need it. It's helpful to have it if you want to become a web developer, because you want to be a web developer, or you want to offer that as a service, or that you want to experience it and you want to build websites. More power to you. Go ahead and do it, but you don't need it to do a tech SEO. No, not at all. Not at all. And it doesn't, I've met amazing tech SEOs, amazing tech SEOs that don't have web development experience. So don't feel like you have to have it. You don't have to have it. It's just the journey that I took. I'm a very curious person, and it's something that I wanted to learn. I used to play browser-based games like the ones I ended up building. So I was always interested in it, and I was always just interested in how the game worked, and I just wanted to learn how to do it myself. So I took the initiative to learn the mechanics of it and game design, and I wanted to be a game developer for a while, and I realized, oh, it's an unstable industry, and I and unless you are with a large company, which again, you're only as good as your latest game, then it's a tough industry to do really well for yourself in. So I realized very quickly that it's better to grow and not specialize in a niche in that aspect. But that's where my upskill, or my desire to upskill, came from. It wasn't because I wanted to be a better SEO. It was just because I'm a very curious person and I get my hands into everything.
So we finally got the answer, and I wanted to start
No,
this call with
secret.
that question, but I totally forgot.
Not a secret, not a secret. But yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So thankful that you actually share, because I totally forgot to.
Oh yeah,
Oh
no,
yeah.
absolutely. And like I said before, if anybody wants, like, or haven't has any other question or wants to learn it and just want to learn it, I totally respect that. And by all means, I'll be more than happy to point them in the right direction.
Yeah. All right. Donald, did
If
you
you
want
have
to say
any,
something?
oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just wanted to say that was interesting dialogue, interesting conversation, and also nice to meet you, Gabby. And one thing I would like to share that on my side, as let's say working experience as a male,
Yeah.
I sometimes experienced similar experience that you experienced as on the other side. Unfortunately, I think that sometimes is also a matter of I would say culture, company culture, and gender is important as well. But sometimes if maybe there's a company, I always working in companies, but if you work in a company that doesn't have a kind of approach of respect, and also when you were saying about also in the conversation, it was also kind of to go to the HR and talk about that, but maybe there were still some issues anyway, and they were maybe even at all resolved. And that, I think that it's sometimes it's always an issue which it's found that is in the roots of the kind of company culture. And when there are certain elements of awareness, and especially I think maybe 10 or maybe 20 years ago, it was the kind of topic of bullyism and harassment, and there weren't any kind of conversation about that in a company, and then started to be this kind of conversation, and people, they were aware that actually what they were doing, it was something that was, they didn't even know that maybe saying something or maybe acting a certain way that was kind of offensive or something like that. because especially with multinationals, we are from different countries, and maybe they have different culture from one country to the other, and sometimes we are not on the same, let's say, levels or the same kind of behavior. And so it was important to bring this conversation. And then I saw myself that it was in most of the company I worked at, then it was a better kind of environment, because once you start in working, you have your kind of induction day, and they explain it about that, and then you are aware of about that. So I think it's all kind of starts with let's say with the root of the company, and then once you give the good once the company gives the good example and people understanding, then they spread the good example, maybe moving from one company to the other, and you see maybe some moving to another company, you see some rotten apples, and then you either as a male, you maybe you are more confident to approach the other guy and you say, look, I think that is not appropriate, and also I think that not the credit you is not yours, but thanks to this person, especially even in previous job I did, and I was in meetings, and I was always try to give the kind of thanks to this person, because it is helping me with this research. Let's say for SEO, if you are working in a team, you have different people in the team. So maybe one is doing the research, another is doing, I don't know, keywords research, and of course, maybe if you are the manager, or if you are the one that it's owner of the project, it's always kind of automatic that that person is getting all the the applause or the compliments. But in that case, you say, okay, thank you for doing this, thank you also to that, to mention people, and that's it. It's just my kind of experience sharing about that. Maybe can help somebody's listening, watching about this, and but
yeah, definitely company culture is also attracting the certain people's attitude, and then like if the people are not suitable to that company culture, they will left on one point. So even like in a positive or negative way. So and especially encouraging like all the actually team members that help you to grow and on the project is and actually it's also helping you when you are putting some nice words around somebody. Is actually you are growing as well, because you're just like feeling good about even like yourself and another person. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
I think it's the ultimate step to become kind of a leader, to kind of give to the others the opportunities, because it's obviously, if you have experience, let's say 10 years experience in a particular sector, it's obvious, but it's the other person that is starting working with you, and has to be given all the kind of input and help to grow their self-confidence, and that's the only way, I think. Otherwise, it's we are keeping the old-fashioned way of managing a team, or even in the company. So
yeah, definitely by giving, we are growing even more. Even people are afraid actually that somebody will replace them, but it's not. It's just like healthy, the structure, the relationship. So I don't know, for me, I would say like even like comparison or some competitors, doesn't matter, like if it's in my team, it doesn't exist, because I don't know, nobody can be me and I can't be anybody else. So it's just I don't know, at least it's much more healthier way to think about all your positions, because
I've always said, like, being you means that you're irreplaceable, because there's nobody else out there like you. So and that's especially the reason why I always tell, like, any of my mentees, anybody that I've helped in SEO or anything. I always say, like, don't be afraid to be yourself. Like, don't ignore what everybody else is doing, but like be unapologetically you, and also like just do your own thing while also working well with the people around you. Like it's a good balance to have, and by being you, you're already being competitive because nobody else can be you, you know?
Yeah. And a
You don't
lot of
have to
people
bring
are,
everybody else down, you know,
yeah.
to be that competitive edge. Just got to be you, you know.
And a lot of people are actually looking for being authentic, and then just they are comparing themselves and they are taking something from others. But if you're just like being yourself, then you're truly like authentic. There is no,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And especially in marketing, I feel like we see the same campaign sometimes over and over and over again. We need to see something that stands out to remember it. So put your own personality into it, and people are going to remember it because there's nobody else out there like you. And that's what makes marketing so, like a good marketing campaign, so good.
Yeah.
You remember it, you know, and a lot of who we are as specialists and, you know, marketers, it's like you want to be memorable and you want to leave your mark. And the best way to do that is by being authentically you, because again, nobody else can take that away from you. We can come and try, but a little a little a little uniqueness is gonna put a flair to it that nobody else can take away from you, you know, and it'll come out. People will see.
Yeah, and they will remember you as so authentic.
Exactly.
All right. I think this is the perfect way how to actually end up this episode. And I really hope that actually SEO Happy Hour is something authentic on the market, and that is actually something that is helping people by just like bringing these topics and discussing them, and the different opportunities that SEO professionals can take to improve their positions, to improve their mindset, so they are progressing in their like SEO careers much more easier. All right. So, Gabby, thank you so much for today. And yeah, I see you in the next SEO episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Bye.